So just to get a little bit of background on like who you are, could you tell us a little bit about where you like grew up and like how would you describe it demographics wise?
So I grew up in a fairly small city and it's really conservative. I looked it up recently that only 50% of the people there are white, which is better than I was expecting. But yeah, it's very conservative, very Christian. And so that kind of takes over most of what like my childhood home was like. I am Southeast Asian. I also grew up Catholic too. I identify as queer, but growing up it was really hard to kind of explore that or like come to terms with it. So I actually wasn't comfortable being out until I actually came to college. I am still not out with people like back at home either. My family is really religious, so their expectations are, I think it's both like the religious aspect and just like growing up Asian where they expect you to like not be with anybody all the way up until like college, and then there's like that moment where they're like, why are you not married yet to a man? I had never really been interested in boys, so it was okay though with my parents because again, my parents were like, you are not seeing men ever until you're older kind of thing. So they didn't really question it or anything, but I guess when I was like 15-ish was when I first like started questioning and realizing some stuff about my sexuality, and yeah, it's just a lot of like, I don't tell my parents like what goes on in my head, especially with that type of stuff. They also don't talk to me about that type of stuff either. Even with like, you know how most people have like a sex talk with their parents? Never got that from my parents, my family. So their like assumption of me not dating until I was much older kind of actually let me do whatever I wanted in high school and like be secretive and like not tell people about my identity as queer, while also being able to like get with people and like hang out with like a specific crowd that was also queer, and so I like made a lot of friends too. Every time I come home now, there's always the little like, oh, you know, whenever I have grandkids, it's gonna be so nice and stuff like that. And I've talked to my sister about this too. She's always like, since you're gay, like you probably won't have kids or anything like that, so they're gonna expect kids in some way, like grandchildren, so it's gonna be on me. And so that's kind of like a tense situation too whenever I talk to my sister about it. I would say I'm close with my sister, but we don't talk about that. I think a part of it is like, because she does know that I am gay. I feel kind of like I feel bad, honestly, because not only am like I hiding something from our parents now, she is also hiding that too. So there's like this small amount of guilt that like happens whenever we just have like to talk to our parents and stuff, and she has to hide it. So I try to not tell her things so that that the guilt like doesn't grow into something much bigger than like, you know.
Do you know like how your parents feel about if their children were gay and like how you think they would react?
So my mom is very religious, so she's like 100% against it. I think I know she would probably disown me if like she knew growing up and stuff like that. Just because like another example that happens, I have quite a big family, so there's always like a gay cousin, you know? And so he is like a couple years older than me. Somehow the family found out, and like we don't see him anymore kind of thing. He kind of did get just removed from the family and like reunions and stuff. It is such a big way for me to connect with like this culture, and like when you celebrate New Year's or a wedding, you just see everyone and like the traditions that you do. So I feel there is like a bit of like cognitive dissonance between like, I know that they are one of the only avenues that I can kind of be myself in one way, but definitely not myself in like a different way in regards to my sexuality. So it does get like really uncomfortable. I never think about is their family gonna mesh well with my family, because on some level I'm probably never gonna introduce them. / I keep those parts very separate.
Do you ever feel like your race has affected you in like romantic situations or like dating situations?
Yes. So I think that people assumed back in high school, obviously I wasn't out either, but based on my race, a lot of people assumed that I was straight. So then whenever I was interested in a girl and I was like, hey, I really like am attracted to you, blah blah blah, whatever, she'd just be surprised because she's like, oh, I didn't realize that you were queer. And I'm like, that makes sense, I guess. But I do think that like race plays a thing into it because she has told me that like she didn't realize because I was Asian, and I was like, oh.
Do you ever feel like it goes the other way?
Actually, so a couple of years ago, I used to say that I am into specifically not white people. But it feels so weird for me to say that. I feel very uncomfortable now whenever I think of like dating preferences, and I'm like, a dating preference is a racial preference. Like, that's weird of me to say. Nowadays, I just tell people what my type is, and then I like name celebrities, and then that's like, there, you get an impression of what my type is without explicitly saying that I am not interested in or attracted to white people. So I've had a conversation with a white man, like my friend before, and he said something along the lines of like, why is it weird whenever white guys say that they have a preference for like Asian girls, but not weird whenever you say that you like not white people? And I'm like, there's like a big difference between like a racial preference and like a power. It's almost like a power thing at that point. It's not so much like a racial thing because there's that like meaning that you like fetishizing. I don't want to fetishize the people that I date either, right? So that's why I don't really feel comfortable saying that I am not attracted, or I'm attracted to only not white people.
Do you think there was a reason you used to say like you weren't attracted to white people?
I think it's just like the energy that they have, not into it. The way that I have to act around them, not into it. Also, they just like have audacity sometimes to just say things and do things, and I'm like, bro. One thing that I have been thinking about a lot too, because I just came back from seeing my family, my parents have this like, they want me to be with a Vietnamese Catholic guy. Those are like the three things, right? And I know that if he isn't Vietnamese, the next like person in line would be a white Vietnamese guy. Or I mean, not a white guy, but a white Catholic guy, sorry. So, yeah, like in my family itself even, the big extended family, whenever people start like dating each other long term and like getting engaged and stuff, then their significant others started coming to like the Christmas celebrations too, or like the weddings and stuff. And there's always like a lot of talk whenever they aren't the same race, so they aren't Vietnamese. But there's much more talk whenever like my cousin brings a white guy into the family versus whenever like my cousin brings a Mexican or like a black guy into the family. It's just like nasty how they talk about some of those people sometimes. It's pretty rough. And I wonder if like other people's families like get the same experience as me too, because sometimes I just like sit at the table and people are eating and talking, and I'm just like, bro, I can't believe I'm surrounded by people who think this way right now. Whenever my family says stuff like that, I always want to go against them and say something that's like, that's just wrong of you. But there is a fear that if I like go against them or like question the things that they say, then they are going to suspect something about me. So I actually don't say a lot of things. I just laugh and ignore, almost out of like self-preservation. Yeah, which sucks. Because there has to be somebody that like says, call out their stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. That's so fair. Yeah. It's for sure relatable.